You're listening to the Weekly Pop Movie Podcast. I'm Jeremy, and I appreciate you stopping by to check out this show. So for those of you that are watching this podcast on YouTube, I did want to let you know that you can head over to SoundCloud and follow Movies Are Terrible, and you can take this podcast with you anywhere for your listening pleasure. So make sure that you are subscribed to stay up to date with the new episodes, because I plan on rolling them out as regularly as possible again, because I love to talk movies with you guys. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to do so. I've got some fun topics for this week. A couple of them are a little less timely than others, but just because they slip past the radar on me doesn't mean I don't want to weigh in on them. And the story that I'm talking about in particular that came out about a week ago is plot details for the upcoming Predator movie. So the original Predator is one of my favorite movies. I'm not trying to sit here and debate whether or not it's a fucking masterpiece. It's pretty much a B movie, but at the time that I saw it, I just thought it was the most epic, awesome concept ever. Which it still is. I mean, you gotta admit, guys, I was probably like 7 when I first saw it, and this idea of like a bunch of commando mercenaries, like the baddest motherfuckers on Earth, get dropped off in the jungle, and then they're hunted and have to fight for survival against this intergalactic game hunter that has the power to cloak himself invisible and has all this badass technology. Love this movie. Used to play Predator as a kid. Just a little fun aside for you. But anyways, it was directed by John McTiernan, who is also known for directing a little movie known as Die Hard. Yep, so McTiernan is a respected filmmaker and works really well within the action genre. Obviously, it also starred Arnold Schwarzenegger and Carl Weathers and Jesse Ventura, so it had a lot of 80s action cred. It also starred a gentleman by the name of Shane Black, who played Hawkins, who may be my favorite character in the Predator movie. Roll that clip.
Hey! The other day I went up to my girlfriend. I said, you know, I'd like a little pussy. She said, me too. Mine's as big as a house.
That one never gets old. Shane Black went on to have quite a career in his own right. He became a writer and is responsible for like Lethal Weapon, and he also directed movies. Iron Man 3 is one of them, and then the fantastic Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and The Nice Guys. If you haven't seen those movies, shame on you. You call yourself a movie fan. I'm just kidding. I shouldn't sass my listeners, but you guys should go check those out. So when I heard that he was attached to an upcoming Predator project, I was like, okay, I guess that could be cool, you know? At least he's a talented guy. I didn't love Iron Man 3, but that's like the one of his movies that I didn't think was fantastic. So I'm like, all right, I can dig this idea. I really like the Predator franchise. Nobody probably knows it as well as Shane Black, who was in the movie. He's also a writer and a director. I mean, who's more perfect for handling this property? So there's a lot of things going for it that have me extremely excited. Man, I've spent so much time not even talking about what I'm supposed to be talking about, which is the quote that star Thomas Jane made about the plot details surrounding the movie. So let me go ahead and read these to ya. In quotations, "We play these veterans from like Afghanistan, Iraq war or whatever. But we're all fucking crazy, so we go to the VA hospital to get our meds. We're all like shell-shocked, PTSD soldiers. We're at the VA hospital and we're in group therapy, and of course, somebody flips out. This is backstory. I don't think we really see this. Somebody flips out and we all get arrested and get thrown onto the bus to go down to the hospital, and they throw this other guy on the bus too. And he's a guy they've actually marked to kill because he's seen a UFO. He's seen the Predator ships come down, so they lock him up and they throw him in with us lunatics. They're gonna take that bus, drive it down to a ditch, and shoot all of us just to get rid of this one guy. But of course, we take the bus over, and we're like, fuck that, man. Let's go kill these fucking predators ourselves. And we're just crazy enough to believe that this guy really did see a UFO and that there's these aliens out there. So that's kind of cool. It has that kind of Shane Black humor. We had a blast. It was funny. You know the Predators. You know they didn't fuck those up. They're still Predators, and they're still pretty much the same Predator as always, I think. I think it might be great. End quotes. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I feel enlightened. That was a very articulate and very wise choice of words to use there, Thomas Jane. Jesus Christ. Don't do interviews, man. And funny that I should say that, because if somebody were to actually like transcribe half of the shit that I say on my podcast and put it into text form and then send it over to me and be like, do you sign off on this? Is this what you want the world to think that you think? I'd be like, fuck, did I say that? And I'd imagine that's kind of the situation here. Like, you get asked a bunch of questions by a bunch of people all the time. And it's hard to always be sensitive, especially in this day and age that we live in, where if you say the slightest wrong thing that can be misconstrued is going to make headlines and blow up on Twitter and all of that kind of shit. So I kind of feel for Thomas Jane in this situation, but what a tone-deaf bunch of quotes that he said, especially in regards to the military. And as somebody who's not super rah-rah patriotic, as somebody who doesn't come from a military family or background, has never served any term myself, I don't, personally get deeply offended by this, but I have read several tweets and other comments where veterans and family members of military servicemen and women have been very bothered by his choice of words here. And it's pretty understandable. I mean, I don't want to go and break all of it down, but when you say we play these veterans from like Afghanistan, Iraq war, or whatever, it's very dismissive. Like, and it's not like we're talking about the Vietnam War, some shit that was decades ago. Like, this is pretty fresh wounds that the nation is still healing from. So it might be kind of tricky. He might be just not the spokesperson to go and discuss what the movie is. But Shane Black has dealt with, kind of similar issues involving PTSD, especially when you look at even Iron Man 3. Like, these aren't things that he shied away from. But to me, this sounds like the way that Hollywood people would pitch it to each other, not thinking about the fact that, like, middle America's out there listening in like, what? Anyways, the synopsis itself, which is the main reason why I wanted to talk about this story, it seems, I don't know, if I didn't know Shane Black was attached to it, I'd be very, very bothered by the whole idea of it. I do like the idea that these guys are military, similar to the commandos in the first one. They get put in a situation probably where the bus crashes. They're out in the wilderness now, and this predator, I guess they're going to hunt the predators down, which is definitely an interesting spin on the mythos. I don't know if there's going to be multiple predators or just one predator this time around. The movie's called The Predator, where the original movie was called Predator. So that little "the," it's kind of like the change between The Evil Dead and Evil Dead. Anyways, I don't know. I guess it's better than calling it Predator 4 or whatever. But I am very, very, very on the fence about all of it. The cast seems fine. Shane Black is the guy to direct this movie. And I am not opposed to seeing another Predator movie because the 2012 one wasn't what I wanted it to be. I'm not going to say it sucked. It just, it muddied up the mythos and added these fucking super predators. It's like the Predator was cool enough. We don't need big head super predators. It's like the more badass the predators got in that movie, the bigger their fucking heads got. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, I would love to hear what you guys think about this upcoming Predator project. Is it going to be a good movie? Is it going to be a fun movie? Or can I just go ahead and write it off as another shitty reboot from the rip? Let's move on to the next topic. All right, and now it's time for me to step on a landmine for your entertainment. So a few weeks ago, Harvey Weinstein was outed as being the deviant that he is. He had a long history of sexual misconduct dating back decades, And every day there was another revelation, another woman coming forward to discuss her experiences with Harvey Weinstein, or other victims getting emboldened to go and tell their stories. And all of these other celebrities have been being outed. Kevin Spacey, there's been a lot of accusations leveled at him, to the point that House of Cards has been canceled. This is a very successful Netflix show, and they just weren't willing to take the chances with somebody who could potentially be responsible for so much horrendous shit. So they just went ahead and pulled the plug on it. Which brings me to this next story. And first of all, this is just my opinion. You may have a completely different one, and that's okay. I would actually love to hear your thoughts on this. So even if you don't agree with what I'm saying, I would still love to have some constructive discourse about it, because I think this is an important conversation to have. But I was doing some reading yesterday, and I came across a story indicating on Variety that Stranger Things actress was stressed out over unscripted kiss. Showrunners garner backlash. Okay, so what this is in regards to is a scene at the Snowball at the very end of season 2 where Lucas shares a kiss with Max. Let me see if I can find the cast members' names. Okay, so Sadie Sink is the actress playing Max, and Caleb McLaughlin plays Lucas. And this kiss was unscripted, and I guess at the very end of shooting, they decided, oh, wouldn't this be a nice little moment? So they threw it in there. First of all, if you've seen the show, then you know it was a very harmless, like, kid-like kiss. It was nothing provocative, nothing exceptionally sexual about it or anything like that, at least in my perspective. But we'll start to kind of dig a little bit deeper into that here in just a minute. So there is a series called Beyond Stranger Things. It's basically like The Talking Dead or Talking Thrones or any of those after shows where a panel sits down with the cast and crew and discusses the episodes and the shows and things like that. It's hosted by that guy from Community, and that in itself just felt like a misstep. I tried to watch the first episode of it, and I was like, all right, I don't like him, and I also feel like these kids are just like little kids. I don't want to hear them talk. Like, the characters they play on the show are cool, but they are not those people. Like, kids that age are really just obnoxious, but especially when they're like successful and they have egos and all that stuff. Anyways, I don't know their lives. Those kids might be just fine. But when I was watching it, it just rubbed me the wrong way. So I was like, I'm not that into Stranger Things, I guess it turns out. So it was on it was on that show where the question was asked, what about that kiss? And the girl, which is a 15-year-old, basically said, I didn't want to do that. They made me do it even though I didn't want to. And they're like, well, it's because you didn't want to that we made you do it, which was kind of tone deaf. He was joking about it. And basically he said because her reaction was so strong that she didn't want to do it, that he was going to make her do it, especially now, which pretty tone deaf considering what's going on right now in the world. But at the same time, like, why should you as a filmmaker have to worry about that sort of thing? Like, I don't know. It's an interesting dilemma because it wasn't in the script. When they signed whatever they signed, I don't know exactly the inner workings or the deals. I don't know if because it wasn't in the script that she didn't have to do it, or, you know, I don't know. I don't know the contracts and agreements that were made behind the scenes. But just from an outside perspective looking in, do they really need to jump on this train? Like, there's so much serious stuff going on with Kevin Spacey's allegations and, the allegations against Kevin Spacey, the allegations against Harvey Weinstein, where we're talking about men that were forcefully having sex with people and actually, committing rape. It's like, to throw this into that pile, I feel like is reckless and irresponsible, and it devalues the actual victims out there. Now, granted, you shouldn't force people to do anything they don't want to do, but it's a coming of age story. These kids are going through adolescence. Of course, there's going to be a kiss scene somewhere in it. And I felt like it was really sweet. It didn't have the impact that the kiss between Mike and Eleven did, but because it hadn't been building towards that as much as the other storylines. So I don't know. When I saw it in the episode, it didn't even register to me. It wasn't until hearing about this afterwards that I started kind of reflecting on it and thinking, and it was so innocent and so harmless. And I'm just wondering, like, should the Duffer Brothers be subjected to this kind of criticism? Was what they did wrong? Or is it completely on the up and up to throw something into a script and then expect your actors to do it just because you are the creators of the show? I don't know. I don't have an answer. I really just wanted to pose the question more than anything. I did want to say that all of this has really brought to light that we need to be having a discussion about what is appropriate and inappropriate behavior between genders just in general, and hopefully there will be a resolution and a middle ground to where both sides of the equation and feel like we can all be on the same side. Okay, now into some even more controversial news. Black Adam's appearing in Suicide Squad 2? No, I don't know for sure. That's what the headline read, but upon further investigating, there's no confirmation about it. So back in the year of 1947, The Rock was confirmed as DC's Black Adam. Black Adam's like an Egyptian supervillain that battles against Shazam. I don't really know much about him. I've seen him in the Injustice games, and I knew that The Rock was supposed to be playing. It hasn't really been since 1947. I want to say it was 2010, though. It's been a while that he's been confirmed as Black Adam. But they did say conclusively he will not be appearing in 2019's Shazam movie, which was recently just now cast. They cast Zachary Levi to play Shazam, and they also cast Billy Batson, but I don't remember what the kid's name is. And people thought, of course, Black Adam's going to be the villain in the Shazam movie, but it looks like they are going a different direction. And Suicide Squad 2's synopsis would definitely indicate that Black Adam will probably be showing up. And the little bit of information that I have states that the synopsis is that the current plan for the sequel is for the members of Suicide Squad to be tasked with tracking down a weapon of mass destruction. That weapon? Black Adam himself. That sounds pretty spot on. It sounds very similar to the synopsis of the first Suicide Squad movie. Instead of Enchantress, thank God, we'll have The Rock. I just hope they do it right, man. I just hope they do it right. The first Suicide Squad had so much potential, and it had David Ayer attached to it, and he is a fantastic filmmaker. So I had very high hopes for the first one and ended up being very disappointed. But Mr. Franchise Viagra himself can really add a lot of charisma to a franchise. If you don't believe me, just ask Tyrese. Oh man, that's a whole nother conversation that we could have. If you don't follow Tyrese on Instagram and Twitter, please do yourself a solid, because everything that guy posts is just fucking golden. Anyways, to also add validity to this kind of report, Dwayne Johnson stated that we have a really cool surprise for Black Adam that I can't reveal in terms of where we will see him being introduced. Bam. Suicide Squad 2 also has a general 2019 release date. So both these movies are coming out the same year, and it looks like Gavin O'Connor is attached to possibly write and direct Suicide Squad 2. Gavin O'Connor directed The Accountant. That's really all I know him from. But yeah, curious to see how this all goes. I'm reserving my judgment for the DCEU moving forward for Justice League, which is going to be released next week, I think. So get back with me after that, and we will talk about how I feel the future of the DC movies are going to be. For now, you know where I stand, if you know me at all. I'm a little lukewarm about them, guys. A little lukewarm, to say the least. All right, and do I have one more story? One more story. Oh yeah, this is a good one about Disney. Fucking Disney, dude. They have not made a good headline in weeks. Meaning, hey, their box office ain't suffering for it, and the critics still seem to like their movies pretty good. But man, talk about shrewd businessman. Bob Iger over there, just a real piece of shit. First of all, they want to take 65% of what theaters make for Star Wars' next movie, and they're going to penalize the theaters if they don't play it in their biggest screen for 4 consecutive weeks, which for a Regal or an AMC no fucking problem. But when you're talking about a theater that has 2 screens, that's a really tough decision to make. It's already expensive enough to pay for these movies. Anyways, that's a topic for another time. And then we also heard that they were in talks to potentially acquire Fox so that they could get all of 20th Century Fox's library to add to their streaming service. Ooh, Mickey Mouse, you are a real ball buster. But my story for today is a little bit more on the economics side of the equation, and it is that recently an article was published over at the LA Times Weekly, and it was in regards to this particular headline is about a 2-part investigative series that detailed the subsidies, incentives, rebates, and protections from future taxes that Disney had secured from the city of Anaheim, as well as the company's impact on local elections. This was a expose, and the journalists had been given access to certain things that Disney deemed important. However, once this article was published, Disney released a statement deeming it unfair and that they went around the information they were given and used their own sources, and this is a big no-no, so they decided to ban the LA Times Weekly from being able to attend premieres for upcoming movies. Did I say the LA Times Weekly? I meant the LA Times, period. So Disney said, fuck you. You guys want to write some story without our permission and reveal the ugly head underneath the costume of Mickey Mouse? Well then, you guys aren't allowed to come to our viewing pre-screenings of movies. And so then a bunch of other critics, like 4 other critic groups, decided that they were going to disqualify Disney from award season. Like, all right, you want to ban the LA Times? Fine, none of your movies are going to be able to get award consideration. Which, that should be an unspoken rule. Disney shouldn't be allowed to win shit anyways. They've already won the world. And I may sound like I'm bad-mouthing them. As a business, I think that they are awful. Such shrewd, horrible businessmen. However, on an entertainment level, just sheerly movie-going fun, Disney just nails it. They got Pixar, Marvel, Lucasfilm, Disney proper. Everything they put out is beloved and it does gangbusters at the box office, all that stuff. So they're making all the right moves. It's just God damn, how much money do you people need? And that's especially what I was thinking in regards to the Star Wars screenings. But I think it was great that all of these critic societies came together and they were like, you know what? We believe in truth in journalism. We're not going to let this gigantic corporation say they don't like the truth that we exposed. So now we're going to penalize you for it. Fuck that. And then I think it was beautifully executed because Disney retracted their little veiled threat and now are allowing the LA Times to go and attend these screenings again, which is what it should be. You cannot try to silence the media. That is... it's a scary road that we're going down, and I really do fear that Disney is going to be one of these monopolies eventually. I know there are rules in place to prevent it from happening, but just take a look at the domination that this studio is having over the entertainment industry as a whole. And with Disney's, very specific family-friendly brand, I want diversity in my comic book movies. I don't want for everything to go through this Disney filter, So, I think it's great that these critics came together and showed solidarity. I think it's great that their demands were met because the pressure was felt. And I just love to see it when the little guy can stick it to the man in any way possible. So, I think that's a good note to end it on. I appreciate you guys stopping by. If you want to have anything discussed on the next episode of the podcast, just let me know. Also, again, I'd love to hear your thoughts about these discussions down in the comment section, so let's open it up. Hopefully, we can keep it civil. Until the next episode of the Weekly Pop, I'm Jeremy. Be terrible.